live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your question. Lynn Cullen goes live in 10 minutes. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, and welcome to the program. And sorry about the false information and start and all that, where we've been, as usual, having some technical issues here in the studio. Our latest technical issue is getting hold of my sister. But whatever. Hi. It's, hang on. It'll be, that one. Yeah, with 314. So, we're going to attempt to find her. I know she was going to take our mother to the airport in St. Louis this morning, and she had fully expected to be back, but maybe not. Who the hell knows? Hard to keep track of those guys. So, I got a lot of things I want to talk to you about today. By the way, in regard to the problem we had with the... Okay, so is she available or not? Not?
That's what I thought.
Okay. Whatever. Apparently there was a problem getting my mother off.
Okay, she's available now.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just... God, I got a bad mind. I have a bad mind. Hello? Susan?
Hello, I'm sorry.
What's up?
Well, Mom lost her wallet.
She lost it before you got to the airport or after you got to the airport?
I think she lost it yesterday, and we discovered it this morning.
And so what does that mean? She's not leaving today?
No, what it means is that I got her to the airport and went in with her and helped her talk her way through security.
You talked her through security without her stuff?
She had a Xerox of her passport, and she had pill bottles with her name on it, and those turned out to be better. So that and a full body search got her on the airplane.
You never know when a 92-year-old's going to be packing plastic explosives. Well, I'm glad she got on. Gee whiz. So I bet she's a wreck.
She's a wreck. But it's okay. I think I know where her wallet is. I think it's at the theater at which we saw Birdman yesterday.
Right. We wanted to talk about that, actually. Susan and I both, without realizing that we were both doing this, we both yesterday at the same time went to see the same movie. It's not like... It's odd, really. But
well, and we've been talking about it forever. We were going to try and see it all those weeks that I was there with you, and we never did it.
well, because I never got him
Felt well enough.
Felt well enough. And yesterday I felt well enough. I've been dying to see this movie. This is the movie that stars Michael Keaton. One of, Pittsburghers love him because he's one of us. And it is critically acclaimed. I loved it. I just went nuts. And Susan and my mom were less glowing in their reviews. I was saying to Susan yesterday, it's the kind of movie I'd be very careful about telling other people to go to, because it's odd. It's odd, and some people aren't going to.
Right, and I think that might have been part of the problem. I was seeing it with Mother, who definitely
didn't get it.
Looking at me with,
right, what's going on?
A concerned look on her face, like, what is this?
Right, because it's odd. And it's part of the oddness is what appeals to me so much, because if you just let go and go with it, it's not there's all kinds of things that just screws with your head, with your perceptions, with all kinds of stuff. And I for some reason, maybe in a different mood, I wouldn't have liked it. I don't know. But I was just...
Well, it's fun to see something that isn't exactly like everything else you've seen. That,
Right.
It's still a linear story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's just weird stuff that happens.
There's very weird stuff that happens. The acting is out of this world. I think he's going to get an Academy Award nomination. I think the movie would get an Academy Award nomination. Speaking of that, there was some big awards given out by, I can't remember who, the other day. And I mean, not a major award, but to us, because what do we know? But the movie that got a ton of awards, and I think Best Movie, was another great movie that I think a lot of people haven't seen, and that one's called Boyhood.
I love that movie.
Oh, that movie's unbelievable. Boyhood, neither of these movies are like the kind of movies that gross $1 gazillion and all that kind of stuff. These are truly unusual, wondrous movies. And Boyhood is the one that took 12 years to make. But
it takes 12 years to make because the characters are aging naturally throughout the story.
That's right. So no one had ever attempted to do such a thing before, to take a look at a child as he grew up. And so it's mind-blowing, and that it works so beautifully is a testament to the brilliance of the director, and who is also essentially the writer, I think, and the
original, and the caster.
And the cast, the person who decided who was going to play the kid, because who knows? You're picking a 5-year-old kid. You don't know if that kid's he's going to have to hold a movie throughout until he hits 18.
Right.
I mean, it's odd. Some people don't even understand when you're trying to tell them what the movie is. They get all mixed up. They say, well, what do you mean? It's just fantastic.
I saw that one with Mother, too. She thought it was too long.
Well, listen. She's old and crotchety, okay? I watched Casablanca with her on at home when she was tending to me. And I said, oh, Mom, Casablanca's on. I mean, I've seen it 100 million times, but I can always watch it again. She said, oh, great, I just love that movie. So we started to watch it. And within 2 seconds, she said, I don't understand what's going on. She said, I don't remember this. So she really didn't she had trouble following it, and she didn't get it. So she's just not now, her head just doesn't want to follow plot lines.
That way.
No,
right.
It doesn't. Her head works plenty well in a lot of ways, but this is one that...
Well, she talked her way through security.
Well, that's... Jeez. Oh, man. Well, would you rather be looking for her wallet as opposed to talking to us?
No. I've done everything I could, and I just have to wait for things to open. I'll deal with it when it's
okay.
done.
All right. Sorry, all that seemed very personal.
Okay, so the only other question is whether you would rather talk to me on my home phone rather than my cell.
Yes, we definitely would. Are you?
Well,
are you?
I'm available at home.
Okay, so hang up and we'll get right back to you.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. You know, it's just.
That can't be helped.
It's one thing after another. Oh, hey, Ray, you got an email, and she ain't happy. And she also makes clear that she's not British. Her name is Colette. Matter of fact, she might be French. But she just listened to last Wednesday's show. Hang on, Susan, I'm just sharing an email we got. Colette listened to last Wednesday's show. I don't recall it. Oh, I guess Wednesday was Tom Sokolowski had come on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And Colette says this: you have to stop reading us Ray's diatribes against English people. His comments about Stephen Hawking were outrageous and make Ray look rather less than the thoughtful person he usually seems to be. Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time. To discount his research and conclusion is absurd. I am disappointed that you and Tom did not refute his comments. I wonder, how does Ray feel about Newton and Darwin? Or how about Timothy Berners-Lee, inventor of the Internet and native Londoner? All right, you're being called out there, Ray, for your... Yeah, you were, I can't remember exactly what you said about Stephen Hawking, but it was breathtaking. I do remember gasping. Do you remember what he said? No, but you gasped too. We all gasped. All right, that's done. So, Susan.
Yes.
Says here on the front page of our paper, I guess it's the New York Times, that there's some question about whether or not, I mean, the president is putting off, it says, a visit to Ferguson. Your sense of whether or not an Obama visit to this is one of those things where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. His timing will be questioned, whatever. Do you think a presidential visit to Ferguson is necessary or a good idea or a bad idea?
I think that if there were to have been a presidential visit, it probably should have occurred already. And now the people around here will either think that it's please leave us alone. It's bringing more attention. It's blah, 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 you know, because things are quiet in Ferguson right now. There's, you know, it's becoming more acceptable kinds of good demonstrations, like one of the wealthiest high schools yesterday in Clayton, Missouri, basically an all-white town. They import their diversity. They staged a walkout and you know, had laid down for 4.5 minutes and then went back to their classes. And I'll tell you, for all of the students that are bused there for various reasons with DSEG, the white students who led the protest said, you know, we need to take a good look at ourselves. He said, our classes are segregated. Our lunchroom is segregated. We all need to step up and stop this. And they quoted one of the black students who was at the school saying it really moved him because he felt like an outsider bussed into the school the whole time.
Well, why weren't the black students part of the leadership of
I think they joined it, but they weren't part of the leadership. No.
All right, so they got to tend to their own, as the white kid suggested, which actually brings me to. I want to read you something. This has gotten a lot of play on Twitter, as well it should, and I want to give it a little more play. This is Frank Rich's interview with Chris Rock. For those of you who don't know from any of those people, Frank Rich used to be the critic. So he's gone from the New York Times? Yeah. He used to be a theater critic, and then he became a commentator, an op-ed guy, and now he's got a gig with the New York Magazine, and he interviewed Chris Rock, who is, I don't even know how to describe him, I guess number one comedian, number two black comedian, director, brilliant observer of life as we know it. And I have always found Chris Rock, somebody worthy of my attention. Here's what Chris Rock says when asked about race relations in America. And this was because they're talking about Ferguson. And what you said about the Clayton, the white students, doing what they did and then acknowledging that they themselves segregate in the schools and blah, 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 blah. And he says this: when we talk about race relations in America or racial progress, it's all nonsense. There are no race relations. White people were crazy. That's how he sums up slavery in that way. White people were crazy. Now they're not so crazy. To say that black people have made progress would be to say that they deserved what happened to them before. So to say, he's responding to, so we have a black president. We have a black attorney general. Isn't that incredible progress? He says, so to say Obama represents progress is saying that he is the first black person qualified to be president. That's not black progress. That's white progress. There's been black people qualified for hundreds of years. If you saw Tina Turner and Ike Turner having a lovely breakfast over there, would you say their relationship has improved? Some people would, but a smart person would say, oh, he stopped punching her in the face. It's not up to her. Ike and Tina Turner's relationship has nothing to do with Tina Turner, nothing. It just doesn't. The question is, my kid, and he's just talking, he's riffing. And then he says, I guess the advantage that my children have is that my children are encountering the nicest white people that America has ever produced. Let's hope America keeps producing nicer white people. I think that is brilliant. It's always, we talk about black progress. It's white people who are responsible for every goddamn bit of this. Every goddamn bit of it. What we did to black people and continue to do and refuse to acknowledge. And then we say blacks are making progress. He turns it right around, as he should. He sums up our history in a few words. White people were crazy. And now they're not so crazy.
Well, it depends. It depends. Come sit here in St. Louis.
Well, I know that. No, I know. I know that's true. But as he says, his kids, it's where he has hope that the younger kids will somehow, that is generational as well. I think it's more than that. I think it's
a lot of it is generational, though. Our children, in spite of the thoughts that we probably we're just better about not saying in our generation because we made a step forward from where our parents were.
Correct.
And our kids are making a step forward from where
we are.
But I think that they're more understanding of sexual issues and sexual identification than they necessarily are about racial ones. I still think I'm sitting here, and what I'm looking at tells me that what we think that we got done is just bull. It's just about as bad as it ever was.
Exactly. One more presidential commission. Hoo-ha. I mean, I can't. The president, should have. I don't know what.
I was going to a brunch on Sunday, and there's a big divided boulevard. It's basically a highway that my street is very near, called Limburg Boulevard. And there were some protesters. There's a march that started here in Ferguson and is marching to Jefferson City.
Right, we know.
And they were going, right past on Limburg, just where we were, and it was a crowd that if I'd, actually looked at it, looked like about 80% Washington University and St. Louis U students, and then a few other people. But let's just say this: they were not a frightening-looking crowd, and they were doing nothing but walking. And then I get to the brunch, and I'm hearing about it. Did you see those protests? I said, yeah, they look like WashU students to me. Yeah, well, we didn't look. We just refused to look. And I said, what do you mean you refused to look?
Wait a minute. So you're brunching with people. People are saying it's hard to hear Susan. I don't know what to say, Susan. I mean, so you don't see race relations, which Chris Rock says is bullshit to even start with. You don't see white people that you know having learned a goddamn thing from this.
No.
As a matter of fact,
it's true colors.
As a matter of fact, it's gotten worse, I bet.
Yes, they are finally, they're showing their true colors.
All right. You need to get out of that hellhole.
I'm moving.
Not that it's not like that everywhere, but
well,
St. Louis is particularly
I'll go to
despicable.
Chicago, which is probably even worse than St. Louis.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
And and now the Rams are in trouble because they put.
Oh no, they're not, and the NFL is not. That's media trying to create a problem. The NFL is taking no action. Case closed. So how are the Rams in trouble?
Well, with the community.
Fuck the community. Your community sucks. Fuck them. Excuse me.
Well, I basically suggested that. As you know, I'm an inveterate commenter.
Yeah.
And I'm having piles of terrible stuff dropped on my head as a result.
Well, don't even engage. They have to die. They have to die off, these fucking white people who don't get it. Jesus. Here's Chris Rock again. He starts talking about how, is it the reality of so much in this country now is add to the on top of the racial crap that we're incapable of speaking about in an honest way. Add to that the class crap. When I walked into the studio today, Celine said, I'm reading about the middle class. And I said, what's that? Because we are now such a society of super rich, very poor, and a few, I guess what we'll now call the middle class, hanging on by their teeth. And Chris Rock on that says, when we talk about income equality, class is still the elephant in the room. He says, Chris Rock says, man, people don't even know. If poor people poor people knew how rich people are, there would be riots in the streets. If the average person could just go see the Virgin Airlines first class lounge, there'd be riots. It offers spa treatments. It offers expert mixologists. And at Heathrow, a lodge and viewing deck with an après-ski vibe. The poor people would go, what? What? I mean, all this food here, it's free? It's free for these rich people? And they, what? Massages? What? Are you kidding me? See, I mean, he probably's been in the Virgin Airlines first class thing. And you do. The rich don't live like that 1%, even let's give them 2%, 3%. Don't live like everybody else. And everybody else doesn't know. Or, I think he's wrong about that, because I think in this country, we don't riot. We just aspire to become one of the filthy rich.
Right. We want to protect those rich, because just like we might win the lottery, we might accidentally become one of them. And if you do, then you don't want to pay any taxes.
Okay, one more Chris Rock thing, if you don't mind. Frank Rich asked him about Obama. He says, you ever met him? And he said, yeah, I have, a couple of times. I've been with him. And what'd you think? And here's what Chris Rock says. Kind of cool. I always say cooler than most politicians, not as cool as actual cool people. He's not cool like Jay-Z is cool. He's not Eddie Murphy cool. But in a world of politicians, he's cool. And then he goes on to say, you know, Obama saying he listens to Jay-Z, it's kind of revolutionary, because he's of the age that he's supposed to listen to Jay-Z. And so he's a little more himself than most politicians. We'll see if more politicians end up being just themselves. And here's what he says about a lot of Democrats being disappointed in him. And here's what Chris Rock says. I'm trying to figure out the right analogy here. Okay, so everybody wanted Michael Jordan, right? And we got Shaq. That's not a disappointment. You know what I mean? We got Charles Barkley. It's still a Hall of Fame career. And I think that's true. It's just a bunch of spoiled brats wanting a president that is perfect, that does absolutely everything right and everything we wanted to do. Oh, we didn't get Michael Jordan. We just got Shaq. I think that's brilliant too.
Yeah.
And then he's brilliant about George Bush. He says, you know, George Bush, the kid, he said, revolutionized the presidency. Because he was the first president who only served the people who voted for him. He literally operated like a cable network. You know what I mean? He's the first cable television president. And the thing liberals don't like about Obama is that he's a network guy. This is absolutely right on, a network guy. He's kind of like Les Moonves, the longtime head of CBS. He's trying to get everybody, to please everybody. And I think he's finally figured out, maybe a little late, that there's some people he ain't ever going to get. And I think that's true. That's so true. Bush didn't give a shit about people who didn't already support him. He only served the people who paid for him, supported him. He was a cable network, and Obama's been an old-fashioned network, wanting to appeal to the whole demographic. And it doesn't work anymore. Anyway, I recommend a New York Magazine Chris Rock interview, because this guy is smart as hell. That's all I'm saying. Ray has written back in regard to Colette's email, taking him to task for his hatred of English people. And you have to admit, Ray, if you were saying this about any other group, would I read this? Would it be acceptable? Huh? Would it? Ray wrote back, first of all, I was unaware that Hawkins was English. What? Oh, come on.
How could you not know that?
Ray, you're too smart to get away with that. What'd you think he was? Botswanese? He's English.
Go see the movie.
Yeah. He doesn't have much of an accent. Are you being a... That's a joke.
Is he talking about his computer?
Sure he is.
It is an American accent.
He's being funny.
It's not funny, though.
No, it's not funny.
Ray. Secondly, if you look into it, he is not as respected by his peers as by us, the general public. Let me assure you, when I intend to point out the contemptible English, I will not be subtle. Well, Ray, you really nurse this hatred.
Yeah.
It's
Isn't
not
there enough unpleasantness to go around here?
Yeah. Huh. Oh, dear. I give up. I mean, Ray, I think you're often funny, but yeah. Chris Rock on Bill Clinton. He's a dick. And then he goes a little further. He's a dick. But you're talking about a guy who's publicly embarrassed his wife. So, I mean, he has a choice. If I had to choose between pissing off all the black people in the world, or he was talking, or having my wife mad at me, then the hell with the black people, because he doesn't live with the black people. He lives with his wife. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to there, but... Oh, God.
It's complicated. And I'll tell you the other thing. It's very interesting. People around here remain terrified. Nobody's out. Nobody's doing anything. And I'm walking around going, where is everybody? What's the matter with you people?
Well, and I have to say, though, the downtown here is empty. I've been noticing that. Have you noticed that this week? There's nobody down here.
I thought it was the holiday.
Do people they just holiday from now until New Year's Eve? I mean, some people, I guess, don't have to. I don't know. It's just the roads are, maybe, I don't know. It feels empty here, too. And by the way, speaking of Ray and his prejudice toward the English and whether and how Colette is offended by it, and I'm sure other people are as well, it brings us to an issue that also Chris Rock talked about, which is political correctness, and how now we're not allowed to do what Ray's doing. I mean, I guess you're sort of allowed to do it to the English just because the English were on top for so long. It's still okay to kick them in the teeth. Is that right?
I think so.
The WASPs, right.
Right.
They got such a record of having done so much to so many in their colonial days and the great days of the British Empire. And especially if you're Irish, as Ray is. So you're not allowed anymore. Everybody gets their back up at the slightest. And you know why? Because of social media and because of cable TV. It was cable TV that started this crap, the 24/7 newscasts, where you had to keep putting stuff up there. And in order to do that, you have to create conflict. You have to make mountains out of molehills. You have to. So 5 players from the St. Louis Rams come on the field like this. Why, you got to make a huge to-do about it.
You know, they did score 58 points.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
They were just signaling a touchdown.
We have a call. Hang on. Unbelievable. Caller? Hello? Oh, shit. Hello? Dad, it hurt all of us. Are you there?
I can hear you.
I can't hear you. Hello?
Okay. I'm getting a reverb. Did you happen to see the interview with Norman Lear and Charlie Rose?
Mm-mm.
Wonderful interview, and it just reinforces everything I think about early 20th, 21st century America, which is we're all full of shit.
Yeah.
Norman Lear was doing things in the 70s that we could only hope to achieve in 2014.
Yeah.
And I hear people saying, young people on television who are obviously misinformed and have no sense of history, it's people are doing stuff now, like we're doing cutting edge things, like we're talking about sexual orientation and we're trying to talk about race. They bleeped Norman Lear's clip from All in the Family on the Charlie Rose show. They bleeped 2 words that originally aired on network television at 8 o'clock at night? They bleeped the replay of it from the original, and then they bleeped Norman Lear when he said another word when they came back to him.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
I mean, how can we expect to have any kind of discussion if people are afraid of a word? Listen,
Yeah.
if I want to use the word nigger, and I want to use it in a way that's not a pejorative in describing someone else, but is part of a discussion, there should be no reason me as a middle-aged white man shouldn't be able to use it. But no, I have to say the N-word.
Which is
because
absurd.
People have no understanding what is civil discussion and what the use of words is about anymore. I think the 2 words, and the person they bleeped saying the words on All in the Family was Sammy Davis Jr. And the 2 words they bleeped were nigger and coon. Sammy Davis Jr. was not calling someone those 2 words. He was using it as in an ironic situation. And he's a black man.
We don't get, because now we don't get it anymore. We don't make distinctions. We don't understand satire, irony, sarcasm. We take everything literally. This is the fundamentalist 21st century. This is the non-thinking.
I am calling for a new age of reason, a neo-age of reason.
God help you.
Somebody lead. And one more thing before I go. Hey, did you happen to see the show about mass extinction last night?
No, go away. Go away. Oh. Okay, so...
it is true. If we can't... If the words we have to be able to honestly discuss problems, or there's no hope for moving forward. I mean, around here, there are whole subjects that we can't discuss because, heaven forbid, somebody will misinterpret.
Right. But again, as I say, I was railing about, we live now in an age in which people, it's like a gotcha brigade. We all with our cell phones ready to record somebody doing the wrong thing, to say this, to call people out, to make again a mountain out of a molehill, to we all become sort of snitches. We police each other. We all feel like part of various tribes, and we take immediate offense if somebody in any way offends part of our tribes. And I'm not letting myself out of this. We are this is this culture now. We're all a part of this, and it's going to destroy us.
Well, part of the problem is because it excuses everybody from self-examination.
Exactly. Of course it does.
You know, if, for example, and I know that you don't like to talk about this, but let's just use Israel. If, for example, if it's always inappropriate to point out that maybe something shouldn't have happened the way it happened in Israel, then one gets labeled as, anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish, and or anti-Israel, how can we, hope to move forward if we won't?
Well, we can't.
Ourselves.
We can't, because we can't engage.
With the African American community.
Yeah, we can't engage.
No,
Susan's actually, it's funny you bring that up, because, I got in a terrible fight with our mom when I was ill. And she actually, because I said something critical of Israel, a country my heart is in, I said something critical. And my mother went ballistic and accused me of being an anti-Semite. Let
me just say that I was at that point sitting there trying to figure out how to keep my mother and my sister from killing each other, which I found to be not healthy at the moment.
No. However, but this is that hair trigger response. These hair trigger responses are something we all do. We all do. I don't like to talk about Israel because I know I've got a hair trigger on it. And because I'm so emotionally involved. It's hard for me.
Yeah, but you'll allow your own brain nuance, but you won't allow anybody else's brain, and that's how everybody else
is. Yeah.
And around here, we just had, a bunch of 15-year-old kids that hammered some Bosnian to death. And I'm at the point where we have to be able to say, okay, there are communities that are abandoning their children, and it's not right. And those communities need to take responsibility for the way they're raising their children, or not raising their children. But if we can't have that discussion, we can't move forward. Well,
but that discussion, though, leads to a larger discussion. It always does. Always does, because everything.
Different kinds of people are failing.
Everything
children,
is linked. Everything gets linked.
Everything is linked.
Yeah. Well, we forget about that. So here's another thing.
If there are parts of the link that we can't discuss, then the chain falls apart.
Right. Well, there's so many links parts of the chain that we can't discuss now that it seems pretty damn hopeless. And I just want to say that what Chris Rock says about political correctness is that it's literally killing comedy. It's killing the kind of comedy that he does, that is cutting edge, that is often political and social commentary.
And that uses shocking language to get your attention.
Well, I don't give a shit about this shocking language.
Other people do.
Okay, so he actually said he has stopped doing his show on college campuses. And he says, now here's where, we put our hope in the young people. He says it's the college kids, that he says are so damn conservative, I can't go and do a show. And he says, I'm not saying conservative in their political views, not like they're voting Republican or something, but in their willingness to offend anybody. Kids raised on a culture of, we're not going to keep score in this game because we don't want anybody to lose. You can't, he said that they're so loath to have anybody have hurt feelings that you can't make anyone laugh if that's the case. And he says, for instance, you go to a college campus now, or you look at young people, and let's say they have to point a friend of theirs out. He said, they won't say, he's the black kid over there.
Right. Right.
They'll say, he's the guy with the red shoes. And Chris Rock says, that is insane. You can't even be offensive on your way to being inoffensive.
And why is it offensive to say, I mean,
The black kid over
the
there.
brunette or the blonde?
I don't know. Because we're all scared. Because we're all scared of being jumped on for saying the wrong thing. And I was thinking, I couldn't get this out of my head last night. I didn't sleep because of it. Because here's what I was thinking. Okay, is this on the liberals? Because I am somebody who is an empathetic person, and I have always said, if somebody says to me, here's what I want you to call me, I don't want to be a colored person, I want to be an African American, I will say, okay, whatever, I'm always trying to, get into somebody else's shoes, understand, and try to do that. And then you see that while that's a good impulse, political correctness. I mean, it's a good impulse. But where does it lead? And I, as a liberal, have got to admit that where it has led us has become, to me, absurd. I have joked about what started out as the LGBT community. No, it used to be shorter. I have joked about this because letters keep getting added. Now, I'm sure that joke is politically incorrect. The LBGTQIRSTUVW. God damn it. How much do we atomize ourselves? And how many groups then become protected? Well, everybody, I guess, at some point. So are we able to talk? Are we able to laugh? Are we able to relax? I was up last night thinking, out of liberal good intent, are we willing to see what that led to? And are you happy where that's led to? And no, I'm not.
No.
At all. But on the other hand, I like that, you can't. I like that. I don't know.
It's always the same conversation. It's where we started. It's zero tolerance. If you tell people that they don't have to think, it's either right or it's wrong. If you insist that there's no nuance in life, you're always going to. You're just going to take. It's not going to work. You have to back off of it.
Yeah, but you see, like what's happening in the I don't even know what to call it, the non-heterosexual community. What's happened there is it's nuanced to the point of absurdity now, because ultimately, I'll tell you how many sexualities there are.
I know.
Billions.
Right, because it's all on a continuum.
And they can't all have a name, and they can't all meet, and they can't all, get their backs up. But that doesn't mean that LGBTQRST don't have a grievance, legitimate grievance, and real problems. But how do we educate?
It's the intent behind the word that gives the power to the word.
Oh,
and if we refuse to look at intent and just make a word a villain.
But intent, Susan, that brings us to the Supreme Court case yesterday. Intent.
Right.
The Supreme Court yesterday was wrestling with, if somebody says on their Twitter account, well, I'll get a direct quote.
Yeah.
If a guy says,
I'm going to bathe you in your own blood.
Yeah,
and
I hear
I can't wait to see you death. and I'm going to shoot up a bunch of kindergartners.
Is that a threat? And should he be? Yeah, okay, so here's the Supreme Court's dealing with this now. A guy posts to his estranged wife, there's one way to love you, but 1,000 ways to kill you. I'm not going to rest until your body is a mess, soaked in blood and dying from all the little cuts. That's just one of them. I mean, there's a million of them. This guy ended up serving 3 years in prison. This is at the Supreme Court now. And the Supreme Court is wrestling with balancing a person's right to blow off steam in this digital age, and how a court can see when somebody is just venting, or is that a legitimate threat? On the other hand, his wife certainly felt it was a legitimate threat.
See, and I think that's all you. I mean, if the victim feels threatened, it's ipso facto, it's threatening.
I don't. But what about? But Susan, this is a nation of. Need we remind ourselves? People who feel threatened if you look at them cross-eyed. Think of the women you brunched with.
This is there. We can all look at it. And if somebody were writing that about me online, you betcha I'd seek an order. And,
yeah.
And by the way, I don't know anyone that if someone stands up and yells fire in a crowded theater, that used to be the standard, would say, you just blowing off steam?
Okay, wait a minute. So listen to what Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is fucking superwoman.
Yeah, I know. I just love her.
Jesus, Susan, she just had...
She had a stent put in her heart over the weekend. No big deal. She's 81. She's back at work.
She's beat cancer back twice. Pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, killer cancers. And I was talking about her yesterday. I just think... And she's on that bench yesterday. And sharp as a tack. And here's what she said. But how does one prove what's in somebody else's mind? In this case, the standard was, would a reasonable person think that the words would put someone in fear? And reasonable people can make that judgment. But how would the government prove whether this threat in the mind of the threatener was genuine?
I don't think it matters. If you're acting...
I don't know.
If somebody is out there waving a toy gun around...
Well, and they're a 12-year-old black kid.
They're going to end up, in trouble. I'm just saying, I think words, we all know that words have power. We all know that published words have always been treated differently than merely spoken words. That's why you have things like slander and libel, and that's where intent comes in, well, along with some other tests. But if this guy is publishing over and over and continually such that a court would issue an order because the court looked at it and found it threatening. I don't even understand how this gets to the Supreme Court. I think the court is going to come out with, sorry, you can't do this. And
I don't know. I don't know.
That's what I think.
I don't know.
I think that I'm just surprised it even got this far. I think that there are limits, and we know that there are limits, and blowing off steam is one thing, and threatening somebody is another.
Most of the people who are going to end up in big trouble are like kids on social media. If we start criminalizing all of the crap that idiot kids...
Well, kids are getting in trouble.
I know they are. They're ending up in jail.
Media.
I know they are.
Ending up in jail. And but I will also say that that juveniles are held to a different standard, and it is recognized in the law. I'm not that worried about that. I am worried about people being allowed to make threats, and the victim being powerless.
Yeah.
I don't think that when someone gets to do this over and over and over that we have to wait for him to act on it to go, oh yeah, there's the intent.
Yeah. Well, if you wait to act, it's like...
since these things invariably happen to women.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Women and children.
I think that she has a right to be protected.
Well, that's what my gut certainly tells me. My head is less certain. Okay, so here's Aaron writes in, I'm not defending Ray's strange issue with the English, but I totally didn't know Stephen Hawking was English. I only know him by his computer voice. Why, that's funny. So maybe Ray wasn't even trying to be funny when he said, I only...
Well, okay, I mean, that's fine.
Okay, guys, there's a movie out right now about Stephen Hawking, and
he definitely has an English accent in it.
Yes, because he's English. Anyway, Aaron says, I had no clue. I learned something new on the Lynn Cullen show. And Russ writes about the Democratic Party. My biggest issue with President Obama is how the Democratic Party has abandoned him and allowed him to be thrown under the bus every time he is attacked. Best seen during the recent midterm elections. Yeah, well. Hey! So, I guess that's that. So, anyway.
Did you hear Mom call in the middle of...
No, is that... I could tell you were out. So she called from where?
The plane.
It hasn't taken off yet?
No, she said, I think we'll be fine. I'm on the plane.
Oh, so she still hasn't
nice,
left.
Mother. I'm on the Lynn Cullen show.
Oh, God almighty. Okay. I mean, people are often amazed that, like, this 92-year-old woman is flying around by herself anyway, but why not? I mean, what is it about this assumption that as you get, especially if you're a woman and you get older, that your driving is amazing, or that if you're living alone, or if you're doing anything, what is that? What is that about?
Or how could we let her?
Or how could we let her?
And in our case, it's like, you want to try and stop her?
Yeah.
She could arm wrestle both of us and win.
God. Well,
that's a slight exaggeration.
Yes, that is definitely an exaggeration. Now, I mean, I had to wait till she was in her 80s before I could sort of keep a better pace taking a walk with her.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought, geez, I mean, I had to wait till she got well into her 80s to feel that, like, maybe she wasn't, like, the most gorgeous woman in the room.
No, she still is.
No, I don't think she is anymore. She's 92. She's the most beautiful woman. I don't know, but she's 92. Surely we would be judged to be more attractive now.
I don't think I am.
Ah, come on, Susan. Don't we ever get to be? Come on.
No.
It was bad enough when you're a teenage girl.
I know.
And I
was just saying this the other day. I said, you would have thought that there was one point during my life that I was better looking than her, but it still hasn't happened. Excuse me, than she, and it still hasn't happened.
I think we're being too hard on ourselves. It's not fair.
That has nothing to do with it.
Jeez.
I mean, like Elizabeth Taylor, when she got older, wasn't beautiful anymore.
Well, I don't know about that. She just got fat. She still had the most gorgeous eyes of any human being on the face of the planet. Yeah. So her daughters never got...
Yeah.
It's like Prince Charles never getting to be king. It's not fair.
And he's not better looking than his dad either.
No, definitely not. Oh, Lord. Okay. Well, Suze.
Yeah? I have to go look for Mother's wallet.
Yeah, well, gosh, good luck. Let me know if you do find it. Good Lord. Oh, it's okay.
It's nice. It's nice. Okay, it's also 10 o'clock.
I just heard somebody say the other day that we have to learn how to understand the difference between a tragedy and an inconvenience. And that's right. And so that's why not to lose your mind about a lost wallet. That's an inconvenience.
That's what I said to Mother this morning. We're going to get you on the airplane. I'll find your wallet or I won't, and everything will be okay.
Right.
So.
Okay.
There it is.
All right, Suz. Hey, thanks.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye. And as for you guys, I'll talk at you tomorrow. Okay? See ya.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.